Hi, and welcome to the Loving Soulfully webinar. This is episode number 2, and today we're going to talk about self-love. My name is Rohit. I work as a spiritual counselor, mentor, director, and I'm also the author of Loving Soulfully. We've begun this series to be able to touch on all different aspects of love, and today we're going to focus on self-love, one of my favorite topics in the area of love, because I really believe it begins with yourself. What you haven't given to yourself, you're going to have a hard time giving to anyone else. What you haven't practiced here, in you, within you, it's going to be very difficult for you, because what you don't have, you can't give. Very simple. If I don't have money, I can't give money. If I don't have love, I can't give love. It's something I must find within myself first. Now, the problem, unfortunately, is that we've been taught a lot about self-love. A lot of psychologists and a lot of people today talk about it, but we're not very successful at it. And that's because of one basic problem. The mind is not capable of love. That's my assertion. The mind is by nature critical, judgmental, punitive. I don't know if you have this happen to you or not, but it tends to be, it'll beat you up if you don't do what it wants you to do or what you should do. It's really hooked on this idea of what things should be like. But it's also very conditional. And it always follows that if you do this, then you are a good person. If you do this, then. So there's this if-then thing always going on. There's also the fact of being deserving or undeserving. Well, you've been bad, so you don't deserve to be happy. You don't deserve to be loved. A lot of us carry these ideas within us. They're like beliefs within us. I'm undeserving. I'm unworthy of love. I'm not good enough. And where does that come from? From your own mind. It made the assessment. And because it's made the assessment, it won't let you go forward and experience the things that you really want to have and do in your life. So, where are we going to go? How are we going to turn this around? To me, that answer lies within. That answer lies within your soul. We need a different frame of reference. The soul is by nature, and we talked about this in the earlier webinar, the soul is by nature very different than the mind. It is loving. It is unconditional. It is accepting. It will love you no matter what you've done or haven't done. There is no should or should not with the soul. It is peaceful, it is kind, it is accommodating. It is a particle of the divine, of God, sitting within you. It is God inside of you, loving you the way only God can. So you have the most incredible source of love right here. Not that some people say, I'm God, you're God, and I don't agree with all that. I do feel we are a particle of the divine, a tiny drop of water from the ocean of that divine magnificence, and that lies within us. And it naturally has all the incredible qualities that are most admirable. You will never, if you focus on that and make that your identity and your reality, you're going to find that you're no longer subjected to the mind's criticism or the imperfections, because the human part of us will always be imperfect, but the soul of us will always be perfect. These are two different realities. And if we make the soul the part of us that is in charge and is the part of us that is loving us, as I've talked about in my earlier webinar, you're going to find that you actually have a perfect frame of reference, that knows it is beautiful and incredible. It's not a matter of vanity. It's not a matter of narcissism or egotism. It's a fact. It is so. But it is so in a way of humility. It is so in a way that it doesn't see itself superior to any other. It sees the beauty in everything and everyone. But before we go into that, let's talk about a little more about what happens in our conventional model of self-love. So what I'd like to point out is that self-love is not what a lot of people have taken to be, which is, it's not about pampering. A lot of folks seem to think it's that. It's about getting massages, going shopping, getting your nails done, or whatever else they think is, some way of, no, that's pampering. Let's get it really clear. And pampering is wonderful. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. Indulgence, pampering, treating yourself really well, great. But it's not self-love. Because the moment you're not doing it, that means you're not good enough or you're not loving. And even if you do it on a regular basis, it doesn't go deep enough. It's not at a core level. It's on the surface. So while it's nice, we need to go much deeper to really feel self-love. And even affirmations, which a lot of folks like to do, which is you're telling yourself how good you are, how wonderful you are, they might build your self-esteem, and they're really good for that. Again, we're working at the personality level. We're not getting to the core beliefs yet. The self-esteem itself is by nature fragile. There are times when things are going good in your life, and you may feel that you're a wonderful person. You're getting love, you're getting appreciation, but there are times when you don't get that. And then you begin to doubt yourself. So self-esteem, as I've noticed, can be a very fragile thing. It can be up, it can be down. It's not consistent. Unlike the soul, which tends to be consistently a certain way and is neither up nor down, it is just what it is, and it's beautiful all the time. The mind's construct, whether in the form of self-esteem or any other belief system that you have, is something that can be shaken by situations and circumstances. We've known people who've had everything in life, felt great about themselves, and they lost it all, or they lost a loved one, and then they began to doubt themselves, and then went into depression. So this whole epidemic of depression, this whole epidemic of mental health, requires us to understand what self-love is. What's happened as a result of these false ideas of self-love are we've in fact cultivated things that aren't necessarily good for us. Things like vanity, selfishness, narcissism, grandiosity. We've inculcated this in sociopaths and narcissists, and we found ourselves becoming intolerant of each other. We become impatient, judgmental of each other. And we found it really hard to deal with failure, because when you tell yourself things at a mental level, that you're such a great person, you've been told that by your parents or your teachers or whatever else, then it's very difficult for you to deal with failure. You have to maintain your image, and you're going to fight for it, and you're going to protest, and you're not going to hear any criticism or judgment from anyone's telling you where you need to improve. You don't want to hear it. You think yourself, you take everything personal. I've done this myself. I've so often when someone's trying to judge me or criticize me, and people will do that, you know how it is. I've taken it personal, and I've felt triggered, and I found myself reacting, and I found myself trying to defend myself. And you know what? It's always ugly. Then they argue back. No, but you're this way. And you argue back. No, I'm not this way. And we're in this never-ending battle. But you know what? Today I find that with the soul as the center of my being and as the foundational rock of who I am, and it's the same for you, it's the same for all of us, it's just a matter of switching our identity over to the soul. Once you do that, what I find is that you're no longer as easily triggered. I still might get a little triggered. I'm not trying to run myself out into some place of perfection. It might still happen. And you know what? I thank someone if they can do that, because it brings me to a place of humility, of understanding that, you know what, I am not perfect. I have got all the flaws that I always had, but I'm doing a little better. And I like that. And I'd love to show you how to do that, because I know that we all would like to come to a place where we don't take things personal, and we don't need to defend ourselves. This ego always wants to defend itself. And we're not then prone to depression or suicide or any of these things. I think we need a much stronger medicine, and that medicine is not some drug. It's not some, whether that is a pharmaceutical drug or something like marijuana or whatever else. It's not some new ism. It's the thing that lies within us that is our greatest and best drug. So true self-love, let's take a look at what that is like. I call it soulful self-love because it arises from the soul, in my opinion. And that is by nature unconditional. You can do no wrong. You are accepted and loved no matter what. Now you can do wrong. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes narcissists have this idea that they can do no wrong. And no. It means that you as a being cannot be wrong. Your actions might be wrong, but you might do things that are not necessarily the best and in the best interest of everyone. And for that, there's always humility. We can all use a dose of that. And I know that even for myself, it comes up all the time. I mess up, and I don't do things right. And I tend to be far from perfect, forget things, do things that, embarrass me sometimes. And I love being able to go into a place of saying, I'm sorry, and accepting that with a place of humility. And I think we all need to do that plenty of times. But knowing that at the core, I'm wonderful, I'm special, I'm loved. Not more special than others, not more wonderful than others, but just in my own unique way. I hope you're getting the idea. It allows, because when you go to the soul, it allows you to be compassionate with yourself, to be forgiving, nurturing, and of course soulful. Soulfulness allows you to enjoy your life in ways that you never have. I really know that I haven't before. And so to me, it's been the greatest gift of all, learning how to live as a soul in this world. And that's what the theme of this whole webinar series is about. I really want to give you the tools and techniques to be able to do that. So I hope you'll join me and continue to be here for this. Genuine self-love has been called, even by psychologists who would like to find a way to get there, it's been called the greatest love of all. It makes every area of your life better. And it is the most powerful form of therapy. Absolutely the most powerful form of therapy. So let's not forget that this is what we are here to do, is to really make ourselves into the best version of ourselves. And that's not going to happen if we're going to be slaves of our mind, if we're going to be critical of ourselves. It's going to happen when we shift that attention to something much deeper and better. So let's keep going. A lot of folks will turn to themselves or turn to self-love only at the last moment. They want to wait, perhaps when their health is eroded, or their relationships are ruined, or their work is in disarray. For some people, they only turn to self-love when they're on their deathbeds. Many die without ever loving themselves. And until you've experienced the beauty of what this is, of what the beauty of what lies within you, it's really a tragedy to have lived your life without that experience. We want, and here's what happens in practical life, in our day-to-day lives, when we don't have self-love, what we want is for others to love us the way we haven't loved ourselves. We want others to give us what we haven't given ourselves. And then we get angry or upset if they don't. When they don't provide us the love we want, when they do not understand us, when they do not appreciate or praise us, then we get upset at them. And that is such a tragedy, because we're looking for others to give us that which we do not give ourselves. We tend to demand from them what we are most unwilling to give ourselves. When we seek love without bathing ourselves in it from within, then we will never, ever be satisfied with what we get. I don't know if you can relate to this, but I know I went through this a lot. I had to learn from the bottom up. My expectations came largely from the things that I didn't give myself. The basic premise is this: if your container is full, then you will not need the approval, the validation, the acceptance, the praise, the nurturing from others. You know what differentiates a baby and an adult? A baby cannot nurture and take care of themselves. They need the adult. They need mommy. They need daddy to take care of them. But an adult can. An adult can feed themselves, and a baby cannot. And what this means here is that we need to be able to feed ourselves the things we need first. And when our container is full, then anything anyone gives us over and above that is going to be icing on the cake. It's going to be a bonus, and it's going to feel great, and you'll be able to be in a state of deep gratitude because you never expected it. Because what you expect, you're already giving yourself. Everything else is wonderful to receive. So I would say give yourself the gift of self-love and see how it changes your life. On the other hand, you've tried the other route. You've seen what other people are doing. You've seen people who've got everything. They've got diamonds, fancy cars, clothes, vacations, sports, dream houses, addictions. They've tried everything. But it's left us with a feeling of emptiness. That emptiness which gnaws us inside us and we keep trying to get rid of, no matter how much we try, it doesn't seem to lift. And then it leads to a sense of hopelessness and depression. And it can only be filled by learning to love yourself. That love that lies within us, which we need to connect to with calming our mind down and making ourselves more peaceful within, that love radiates outward and fills your whole being and then radiates out into the world, bringing love to whoever you come across. You will find yourself loving everything and everyone. This is an experience that I've had. I never thought this was possible. I never thought this was real. I'd read about it. I'd heard about people who did that, perhaps through years of meditation or whatever else. I didn't do no years of meditation. I didn't do any of that. I learned to love myself. I learned to quiet the mind and touch, connect with that soul, make that a part of my life. And now it's become my passion to be able to share that with others. Because in the absence of that, what's going to happen is we're going to feel unloved. So many of our problems today come from feeling unloved, unwanted. About 65% of pregnancies are unwanted. So children grow up with that feeling that I'm not wanted in this world. My parents didn't want me. And most times when pregnancies are there, when people have an unwanted pregnancy, they'll try to make the best of a bad situation. And so we see that even amongst teenagers, this is going on. 1 million teenagers, I believe, per year get pregnant in the U.S. It's quite an epidemic. And then the child is not wanted. And then the child grows up with that feeling of being unwanted and that deep feeling of being unloved. And then, of course, those of us that were wanted, our parents tend to be very critical. The way our mind is with us, we tend to be with our kids. We tend to be with each other, with our friends, with our lovers. The closer they get, the more we get with them, the way we are with our mind. So parental disapproval is also a big cause of why we feel unloved. Parents shout at us, scold us, punish us, hit us. They don't do so much of that now, but my time, yeah, it was a thing. And then there's sarcasms and threats and, time out and punishments of various kinds. The child, and the reason all of that doesn't work is because the child begins to feel that their very essence is at fault. Something is wrong with me is the theme I come across when I work with my clients. And that's sort of at the deepest root. I'm flawed. I'm imperfect. I'm not good enough. Right? That's the theme. They feel their existence here is wrong, that they are bad, that they are a burden to the world. These are awful feelings to carry around inside us. And then, of course, we have painful experiences that also color our perception of ourselves. When something terrible happens, we conclude that, again, the same thing. Something's wrong with me. I'm defective. I'm flawed. I'm unlovable. So it's almost like the world conspires to create this experience for us, and we need to fight back. We absolutely need to fight. And it's not enough to just be positive. No, it's not enough to just say good things to yourself. It's not, because trust me, it just doesn't go far enough. Most of us grow up around people, and here's the other part of the problem, people who don't love themselves. And because they don't love themselves, they're going to throw that on us. They're going to vomit their lack of self-love onto us. They feel burdened and hurt and distracted and hardened by life. And then they throw it at us. They attack us. And then we attack them back. It's just a vicious cycle. And then there's another problem, fear. Our mind is constantly in fear. Fear born from generations of practice. Parents telling their kids, don't go out, this will happen. Don't do this, that will happen. Yes, things do happen. But fear becomes an intrinsic part of our lives. And because we fear, we buy guns. Because we fear, we do things to protect ourselves. And I'm not saying it's wrong to protect yourself. I'm simply saying that an atmosphere of fear causes all kinds of psychological trauma to our being and to our body. Fear has been a part of every culture. We instinctively begin, and because of the way it's impregnated within us, we tend to fear the world around us. We fear the unknown. We want certainty. We fear uncertainty. We fear our bodies, our minds, our feelings. We especially fear our feelings. A lot of people bury their feelings, drown their feelings. I used to do it for the longest time. I had no clue how to deal with my feelings. I didn't even know what I was feeling. It was that bad. If you'd asked me, what are you feeling? I don't know. So much for being a guy in a world where feelings were not accepted. I had to learn. I used to look at Louise Hay's book, Heal Your Mind, Heal Your Body, and I found a chart in there, and that chart took the physical symptoms and correlated them to feelings. And would look at that and say, oh, I'm having a stomach problem. Oh, it correlates to feeling anxious about something. Oh, yeah, I was feeling that today. Or anger. I'm feeling so tense and tight, and I didn't know why. And I discover, oh, I'm feeling angry. That's what it is. So some of us, so those of you who are in touch with your feelings, what do you do with them? How do you deal with them? A lot of folks I see will try to rationalize their feelings. Will try to think, why did this happen? What does it mean? Why, how could he do that? And that leads to more torment, because when you put logic and emotion together, they are a heady concoction that results in the left and right brain seem to go into a kind of knots with each other, and the problem just goes on and on and on and on. It becomes bigger and bigger and bigger in our minds than it actually is. And all of that comes because we haven't learned to deal with our feelings. So in the last webinar, I talked about just being able to acknowledge your feelings and say, you know what, I'm feeling upset, I feel hurt, I feel sad, and very loving, instead of being in your head, to come into your body, to breathe, and then lovingly say to yourself, I'm here for you, I love you. And let that soul of you speak, because it is so nurturing and reassuring. And from that voice, that inner voice, being able to say to yourself, I love you, I'm here for you. Watch the difference that makes. And yes, hold yourself, hug yourself if need be, because it makes a big difference. How you treat yourself makes a big difference. Another part of our problem is the emotional pain that comes when people don't listen to us non-judgmentally. Then our life experiences tend to build a big wall of feelings. Our wounds just sit there year after year. We may not even know they exist. We may not be able to name or understand them. They rot and eat away at our insides. They distort our perception. They make us hate ourselves, and they ruin our life experience. And they also result in ill health and sickness. That's a big, huge part of it. They result in us aging faster than we should. They result in stress. They result in the release of all kinds of unhealthy chemicals within our body. They result in cancer. They result in untold misery for us, for which then we don't have an answer except just to take a drug or get drunk or something else, and we try to escape. We cope. And all of that coping, whether it's overeating or intoxicating or shopping, it tends to be a kind of slow suicide. You're slowly destroying your body. And at times it comes out in the form of arguments or affairs or overworking, stress, and all of that creates unhealthy and unhappy lives. Of course, we say, that's just life. We process our pain, but without knowing how to do it. So it's really important that we learn these things, and I hope you'll take some of these techniques and bring them to heart. Some of the questions that are asked about self-love are, what is the difference between learning to love myself and being conceited? And I would say to that, a conceited or proud person has secretly decided that they are not worthwhile, that they're deeply unlovable. And then they put on an act or a facade to appear to be okay. That's something that the narcissist does. That's something that, in fact, most people do. They put on an act. A few people are very real. You ask them how they are, I'm just having a lousy day. They try to be real. But either way, it's not true state of happiness or self-love. A person who loves themselves, on the other hand, gives out a natural sense of well-being. When you're around that person, it's like you're in their aura and you feel happy, you feel good, you feel peaceful, you feel loved. That person doesn't have a need to advertise or show off. It's really hard for them, in fact. It's been hard for me, for example, being able to do these kind of programs. It felt unnatural. I resisted that, frankly. And I didn't know quite what to do with it. There I am. It feels like grandiosity. It feels like showing off. It feels like advertising. But I realized that a lot of this work has to do with sharing what I've learned. And I want to be able to do that with the deepest humility, to let you know that this is not something that I uniquely can do. It is something any and all of us can do. I've been fool. I've done stupid things. And I've learned a little bit. And that little bit that I've learned, I've been told by many. is of value to others, and it's time to share it. So I've had to learn to get out of hiding and step up to the plate, as they say. The other question that is asked often is, why is it so much easier to love others than to love myself? And the answer is that when we're growing up, we rarely are encouraged to develop ourselves and to go within or love ourselves. We're taught about how to achieve things. That's the whole focus about external things. You got to have a house, you got to have a car, you got to get married. You've got to be able to get a good job. All that is important. The external is important. And all of that might give us our physical needs, but it will not take care of our emotional and mental well-being, nor will it take care of our spiritual well-being, which is that emptiness you feel inside you no matter how much you have, no matter how famous you are, no matter how much people love you. There's still that emptiness inside that you're trying to fill by doing more and more and more. Life works best when our regard for ourselves is equal to the regard for others. So it's not about our regard for ourselves being more than that for others, equal. We can only truly love ourselves when we love we can only truly love others when we truly love ourselves. I knew I was saying something wrong. Right. So I'd like you to do a little activity now. And in this activity, you'll have the opportunity to make an assessment of your whole life. You'll start with your first moment as when you were born and work forward through the time till today. Your object will be to look closely at how you fell out of love with yourself. I'd like you to take a pen and 4 sheets of paper. You can do this after the webinar. I've included a PDF file that you can download and work on. But I'd like for you to take a pen and 4 sheets of paper and take an uncompromising look at the events that may have influenced your self-esteem or your ability to love yourself. Mark them on a timeline. So sheet number 1 would be conception to birth. Then sheet number 2, birth to starting school. Then sheet number 3, school years. Number 4, adult years, from college till today. Then discuss your timeline with someone close. Talking about these events out loud will often allow you to, as more details might begin to emerge, maybe a parent, a sibling, or a spouse, or a friend, or someone who's known you. The people who've known us, are such a great asset. They have so much that they can tell us about ourselves that we may have forgotten. With that, we'll come to the end of the main part of the pre-recorded section of this webinar. I'd like you to remember that we're going to be here Saturday, 10 a.m. Pacific time, or 10:30 p.m. if you're in India. Please put it on your calendar, invite your friends to register and join in. It'll be great to have them and to increase the community and to increase the discussion with all of us. I would also like to remind you that the topics we're discussing are going to vary from taming the mind to self-love to soul love in relationships to divine love, bhakti, Sufi. I've got a lot of things that I'm passionate about in the area of love, and I'm going to take in suggestions, more ideas and suggestions that you give, the more you'll add to what we can bring to this channel. I've begun a YouTube channel, and on that I'll be posting most of the replay videos. And I'd love for you to go there, subscribe to the channel, like and comment, and let's make this a really active community. Your participation is going to make all the difference. I hope you've downloaded your copy of Loving Soulfully, and that you, once you've read it, I hope you'll go onto the Amazon site, just search for me by name or search for Loving Soulfully, and write a comment, a review. And it would be great to let other people know about how you liked it and what you thought. Your feedback means a lot to me. Along with that, your participation and becoming a patron of this channel, perhaps. I'm trying to do some crowdfunding through Patreon. It's a site. You'll find me there at patreon.com/Rohit Juneja, my name. And you can contribute, if you like, towards the channel as little as $10 a month or more, as much as you like, no limitations. But the idea of all of that is that I can hire people then for the channel and get more support for trying to promote its activities, because there's just a lot I want to do. I I could use volunteers. That's another way you can help out. If you're a graphic designer, a book editor, if you're into web technology of any kind, such as the stuff that one needs to run a channel like this, the back end work, or if you have marketing support that you can give me, be most grateful. That would be fantastic. I would really, really appreciate any help at all that you can give in being able to support this work. And with that, I'd love to see you back in the Q&A. Keep asking questions, and I'll have lots more to share with you there. And I've got some wonderful questions from the participants here, which I'm going to talk about. I'll start off with Govindi's question, which was very relevant, and that is about the nature of loving self-talk. Now, in the last webinar, I talked about our critical mind and how it tends to judge us, criticize us, punish us, and how we need to be able to set boundaries with it. Because if you want to be able to truly love yourself, then it's very difficult to do as long as you haven't actually tamed the mind. If your mind is going to judge you and criticize you and punish you, and then you want to still love yourself, that's the equivalent of someone who's, let's say, a parent who criticizes their kids, beats them, punishes them, and still says, I love you, I love you. I'm not sure that that necessarily has the best impact on a child's development. In fact, that is why psychologists had parents stop actually introduce this into the schools and into parenting programs, that beating your child wasn't the best way to raise them. The spare the rod and spoil the child wasn't the best approach to parenting. Because in fact, what happens is that when the child is beaten or punished, they become fearful. When they become fearful, their mind shuts down. When their mind shuts down, they only think really negative things about themselves, their capability decreases, their self-esteem goes down, and they might become rebellious, but it's not going to help them. Or they might become submissive. And even if either of those two extremes, they're not being themselves. If someone is submissive, for example, just does whatever the parent tells them, then what happens is they lose their own identity. They keep thinking they need to please other people. They become a people pleaser. They feel that they suppress who they are. And then if they become rebellious, they've still suppressed who they are. They've just caught up in their rebellion. They're caught up in being something that they need to be to fight back against the world, society, parents, whatever else it is. But still, you're not coming back into what is authentically you. And I've been through that journey myself, the whole journey of rebelling and then gradually coming back to finding who I am authentically. In fact, it took a long time to really get back to that place. So the same thing occurs in our own mind. If we're beating ourselves up, we are the parent who is that critical parent, or the critical inner voice. And as long as that's in play, then we're not going to be able to experience true self-love because of these mixed signals that we're giving ourselves. Most important of all is first learning to tame your mind. And as I spoke about last time, the most important word you'll need to learn for that is no. No. You'd say it to a dog, you'd say it to a child, but it has to be firm. It has to be assertive. In the next webinar, I'll talk more about how to actually tame the mind and have that assertive no. Now, no can come in different forms. No, you don't talk to me like that. You don't judge me. That is not allowed. It's sort of setting up house rules within yourself, that the mind doesn't get to beat you up and treat you like, dirt. Keep chattering all the time. No, stop. Exactly. You can do that. I used to say cancel, 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 but you can say any other version of that. That's fine. The important thing is to recognize that my soul, me, I am in charge, not the mind. And I get to be able to tell it what to do. I can direct it, right? So once you take back power from the mind, you will find that you can actually stop all the negative self-talk. Then, what do you do instead? After all, the mind needs to do something. So that's when we develop what has also been called in psychology as the nurturing parent within yourself. You become your own parent, your own nurturing parent. Maybe the parent you never had, or maybe the parent you did have, right? Very often that chattering voice in our head is a reflection of the way our parents talk to us. But in any case, it's important to develop your own ideal nurturing parent within yourself, and that is by loving self-talk. That's the most important thing. So how would you like someone to talk to you? What would make you feel most nurtured and loved? Whether it's your ideal lover, whether it's your ideal parent, whether it's whoever, friend, talk to yourself in the way you would like your ideal loved one to talk to you. And it's not easy. You might find yourself thinking, oh, this is really weird. What the hell am I doing? This is supposed to come from other people. It's not supposed to come from me. But no, it is supposed to come from you. No, it is meant to be the way you talk to yourself. For example, if you make a mistake, you'll say to yourself, and I do this all the time because I do make lots of mistakes. And I'll say to myself, it's okay, sweetie. We got it. We're fine. I love you. I'm here for you. I know it's okay to make mistakes, and if it's something really bad, I forgive you. Make this a constant practice. Make this a regular thing that you do in your life, because, for example, you're feeling stressed. Again, you hold yourself, say, hey, it's all right. We're going to make it through this stress. I mean, I've had some stressful times as I was getting all these webinars together and all that, but I had to say to myself constantly, hey, we're going to make it through this. It's going to happen. It's okay. It feels overwhelming right now, so I'm acknowledging how I feel. I'm acknowledging what emotions I'm having, and I'm learning to be able to reassure myself. So that's a key piece, reassuring yourself that everything's going to be all right. Having a loving, nurturing relationship with yourself. I can't emphasize it enough, like this is vital. Your nurturing, loving self-talk is the key. Have that one piece. You got to stop the negative stuff for sure, and then encourage the positive the encouraging, nurturing self-talk. So yeah, Sunit had asked a really interesting question. I'm going to read it out because it's a fascinating question. He said, it's all about being comfortable in your skin, and at the same time remembering that you are a part of the divine too. How does one strike a balance? I sometimes feel like a yo-yo, swinging from a feeling of being infinite to the struggle of the daily grind, keeping up with your self-esteem. So that's a great question. Thank you, Sunit. I think what's really important here is the more you're able to quiet your mind from that negative self-talk, the more you'll be able to connect with what lies within your soul. It will be a natural progression. Take time for yourself. And time for yourself, as I said earlier, was not about all this pampering and all this extreme stuff. By all means, do that if you feel like it. But the real time, the stuff that matters, the quality time. Like a parent, for example, if all they did was pamper their kid, then that would be a parent who creates an indulgent child, a spoiled brat. That's what we'd call them. This child always expects to have everything done for them and have great things done for them. But they're not able to take, that's not a nurturing parent. So in the same way, when you become a nurturing parent for yourself and your mind starts to calm down, you'll find you can connect with your soul. Your soul has the ability to love you unconditionally. So it'll now become a synergy. Your self-esteem needs to be based on your soul and not on your mind. You see, your body, your mind, your personality have many flaws in them. And your mind cannot love your mind. So your self-esteem, if it is dependent upon your mind, loving your mind, it's never going to happen, because the mind's always going to see flaws in you. There are things you're not doing right. There are things you should have done. There are things you should not have done. So it's always going to find a reason to criticize you. What is important is to reposition the identity. I am a spiritual being. I am not this mind. I am not this body. I am not my personality. I am not my achievements. I am the soul within this body. This is my identity. So breathe in, come into your body, and connect with that soul. Let your mind get to understand who the soul is. What is this new thing you're on to? It could be frightening even. The ego might feel threatened. But let it get to hang out with that. It will discover that the soul is the wiser part of you, the kinder, more loving part of you, yet the more firm and more assertive part of you. It won't take any crap. It's not a pushover. It's not someone who's trying to please everyone. Not at all. You will find that it has power, it has strength, it has creativity, it has wisdom. It has so many of the qualities we would all like to have. And it has them naturally. You don't have to become something. It's already there in you. What you're looking for, the qualities you aspire for, admire in others, are in you already. That's the part that I discovered. I discovered that I didn't have to become something. I already was that. I just had to learn to step into it more. I had to learn how to be able to become more, let my mind and personality become tuned into this. So the more you hang out with your soul, you breathe, you come in there, you feel its presence, you start to activate, as in walk with it, right? When you got a question someone's asking you, take a breath, go within. Let the answer come from there. When you've got a decision to make, go within. Let the decision come from there. When you've got an action you need to take, whether that action is about your work, whether that is with your partner, whether you're in love, whatever you're doing, let your soul come into play. And the more it comes into play, right, by stepping into, getting out of your head, coming into your body, and letting this part of you come alive. It will come alive through your eyes, it will come alive through your voice, it will come alive through your body, you will move with it. And what are the symptoms of that? You will feel peaceful, you will feel focused, you will feel absolutely on purpose. And that sense of aliveness that comes about for no reason at all, you feel a sense of joy. That joy has no reason. There's nothing that's happening in your life for you to feel so joyful. But it's not this excessive joy that you get from when the mind gets its desires met. Not that kind of joy. It is a calm, peaceful kind of joy, like a ripples on a lake compared to the ocean with its waves. That's more like what the mind does. When the mind gets what it wants, it feels happy. When it doesn't get what it wants, it feels sad. Essentially, that's the whole business of life. You get what you want, you feel good. I always say, baby gets candy, baby is happy. Yeah, baby doesn't get candy, baby cries. That's all. That's the whole cycle our mind is wrapped up in. It's an infantile mind at an emotional level. But the soul is by nature happy, is by nature confident, is by it's your self-esteem is not some shaky thing that is dependent upon your deeds or your actions or your emotions or any of those things or the circumstances of your life. Your self-esteem is dependent on your soul, which is consistent. So then the other part of the question that Sunit asked was about how do you keep the balance between the two. Hey, listen, we do have work that we need to do, and during that work we do need to be in our logical mind, and that's why we have a mind, and it's perfectly okay to use it, just as you use your computer, right? When you need your computer, you go into it, you use it, you're focused, you get your job done, and the same with your mind. The mind is not some redundant appendage just because now I'm getting into the soul and I'm this spiritual person. No, not at all. The mind is very needed, but you need to be using it and not it using you. You need to be in charge of it and not it in charge of you. That's the main point, right? So then you'll find that there is a natural balance that comes about where you use it when you need it, just like you use your computer when you need it. Don't overuse it like some people do nowadays, where they're on their phone all the time. No, you don't overuse it. Use it when needed. And the rest of the time, come back into your soul. When you're relating to your family, when you're relating to your friends, you don't need to be in your head. Be in your soul. Let that spontaneous, let your words, your thoughts, your emotions, your actions come from that spontaneous soul presence that is within you, and you'll find all your relationships, because relationship really is the place we go to. After work, we want to go to our loved ones, we want to go to our friends, we want to go and hang out with people that we care about. When we've had a success, when we've had a failure, we turn to people. So relationships are really the core of our life, and relationships become rich and powerful when we awaken our soul. when you do it, your relationships from your soul, you will find you will develop a different quality of relationship, a soulful relationship. And that's why I focus on this aspect of soulfulness, because soulfulness really is the quality of bringing the soul into every part of your life and thereby enriching it. People have used it as creative inspiration. They've used it to come up with new inventions. They don't even realize it. Musicians have tapped into it when they're playing music. And you really have to get out of your mind, out of your way, to be able to tap into it. And that's when genius comes about. Incredible creativity comes about. Incredible passion comes about. All kinds of stuff. So, yeah, Michelle asks, show the mind who's the alpha dog. Here, it submits to my soul. Oh, yes. Talked about that in the last webinar about mind on a leash, and I'll be talking about it more in the next one as well. But really, yes, the mind needs to know who is the alpha dog. Until the alpha dog is established, what's going to happen is the little pup's going to be on your case. That's the mind. It's the little dog. It's not the alpha dog. It's been alpha only because you let it, right? But when you step in and you have a higher power in charge, when you connect with your soul and the mind gets to see, man, this thing inside that he or she is talking about, this is powerful stuff. It's wiser than I am. It's smarter than I am. Oh gosh, okay, I will bow down to it. And I tell you, this is what I've seen. Like when a dog is well trained, you can get a dog that's not well trained and it will be a brat. It will be all over the house and it will pee and poop everywhere and it will do all kinds of stuff. But when you train it properly, and how do you train it properly? You show it who's the alpha, who's the one in charge. Whether it's a horse, a dog, a child, pretty much the same. It's the way the mind works of any creature, right? So, keep in mind that that's really important. Showing your mind who's the alpha, who's the boss, who's in charge. Govindi's asking, how do you give yourself that self-love? Do you have a routine of practices you do regularly? So, that's an interesting question. I don't have a routine. I really don't. I don't believe in a routine that is there for a certain period of time. For example, I don't meditate. Okay? And what I mean by that is, I don't have a certain time set out for meditation or for self-love or any one of these things. It's not a routine. It is integrated into everything I do. I make it a point that whenever I do anything, whether I'm having a conversation with someone, even if it's a friend, whether it's the work I'm doing, whether I'm by myself, whether I'm having a walk, the whole point I try to focus on is being fully, deeply, completely present to whatever I'm doing. And not just present, because I feel presence is just the start. To really deeply enjoy what I'm doing, savor it, relish it, listen deeply, look, awaken all your senses, and allow yourself to be a full participant in your life, deeply immerse into every encounter and every experience. So I really see the practice that I have of self-love, or for that matter of any kind of relating or working, is to dive deep into life. To be not a bystander on life, but an active participant, one who goes in like diving deep, jumping into the pool kind of experience. And to do this consistently throughout the day. Now, some people might say, well, that's a lot of energy to put out every day. But you know what? You put in energy into life, you get energy back out of life. You don't put in energy into life, you don't get nothing out of it. You go full out, you see the rewards of that. You go half in, that's what you're going to get. So to me, self-love is about, is a meditation, is a presence, is all of that. But it's doing self-love in a way where, for example, if I'm taking a walk, I'll just be really present. I'll open up all my senses to look around, to feel, to experience, to dive deep into myself. And I make sure I do that from time to time. Let's say I'm with one client and I have another one coming in. I like to go back to myself, recharge, nurture, fill myself up with energy. You know, all the elements in nature are full of energy. And if ever you're feeling low and down, just step into the sunshine, or I've even done this 40 degrees centigrade sunshine. I'm 45 degrees, or that's 120 Fahrenheit. Step into even that level of sunshine, or cold for that matter. And but fill yourself with the energy of the elements, the 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether, or open spaces. As you step into these elements, the natural creation of the divine, of God, you will find yourself being filled with energy if you are present to that. And you will find yourself becoming recharged. And that's a way of self-love, to give yourself the energy you need. You're like an organism that needs energy, right? You don't need to get it only through food. You can get it through nature. And even a few minutes a day as you step out and charge yourself up, those are acts of self-love. As you take care of your emotions, as you take care of your needs through the day, nurturing yourself with good, healthy food, not junk, meeting with people who are energizing and uplifting for your spirit. Yeah, those are great ways in which to be able to nurture and love yourself as well. So, any other questions? I'd love to hear from you all. The other part is, because we're coming to the end of this webinar, I'd like to be able to remind you that we're going to be doing this on a regular basis. I plan to do it at least till the end of this month. And after which I'm taking a little break. But and then I'll come back again with more. But I really want your participation. I really appreciate you being here for the live program. Your questions mean so much to me, and having you participate and chat and bring up your ideas and your thoughts is absolutely priceless for me. It makes it all worthwhile. It makes me know that what I'm doing has meaning and value, and it brings something, it contributes something back, and that's really what I'm hoping to be able to do. I would love for you to join me on this journey, and if there's anything else that you'd like me to talk about, please let me know. If there are any specific days or times that you'd like to have the webinar, I'm going to put a little poll here for a few more minutes. You can throw that. You can throw out your ideas of which days are best for you. Take a look on your chat area right now, and give me a better idea of what works best for everyone. So far, I'm planning on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific time, which is 10:30 p.m. in India. I have a lot of folks from India who join in. So, also for those of your friends or you, if you can't make it for the live webinars, you will get the replay recordings, and I'm trying to send out high quality recordings so that you can enjoy this at your own time. But being here, there's nothing like it. I really love it when you're actually with me. It feels, I get inspired. So thanks for being there. And I look forward to you joining me in the days to come and in the webinars to come, so that we can all continue on this journey. I think I didn't post that earlier, but it's up there now, where you can add the days that you find best. So do that in the chat area. And we've had a lot of people saying wonderful things about appreciating this webinar. It said, I've got one last question here. When did you begin to discover this way of life? Ooh. Talked about it a lot in the first part of this first webinar, which you might have now got on your replay, but it's also there on YouTube. By the way, I have started a YouTube channel, which I've mentioned earlier. Please go subscribe, and you can watch these videos there as well. When did I discover this? It's been a gradual process. I would say that I first discovered this as I learned to listen to my inner voice. I began to listen to that inner voice, and I was with someone who used to say always, "No, you think too much." And I used to think too much. I was too much of a reader, an intellectual. I would think about things a lot. She said, "You think too much. Go within. You'll find answers within," she would tell me. And I was deeply inspired by her inputs on that, but I struggled with it. It was really hard. I couldn't listen to what this inner voice was, and I hated it. It's just the mind was such a comfortable place to be. I didn't want to go into some inner voice, but gradually I did learn. I had to fumble my way through. Today I'm able to give you tips and techniques and ideas and show you how to get there, but I had to kind of fumble my way through. And gradually, as I began to listen to it, I learned it began to guide me in how to live my life. It began to guide me in how being able, and I began to notice what it felt like, and I noticed how beautiful this inner space was, and how it energized me, and how it inspired me, and it filled me with its presence, and that I could bring that into the, first I thought I began to write with that. But then I realized I can do more than write with it. I can use this energy, this clarity, this wisdom that comes from inside. I can use that to relate to people. I can use that to live my life. I can change everything and anything I do. At one point I wanted to do photography, and the photographs came out amazing. Why? Because I was just allowing this inner part of me to express. And I found that it's just such a powerful force. And then from there came, okay, this is the basis of self-love. This is where it begins. And all these attempts people have been making have been failing because they're doing it from the mind trying to love the mind. That's why it's not working. So anyways, I would love your critique, your criticism, your judgment, your love, your support. And I thank you so much for being here, and love to see you back every Saturday, 10 a.m. Pacific time. I deeply appreciate your presence. My love to all of you, and thank you so much. Take care. Bye.